An interview with Russ Yuristy, July 1973.
No, like I said, I used to draw a lot when I was a kid. And I think going to art school, like in Wisconsin, I got into doing pop paintings. I was doing abstract things before, and I got into doing pop things, which I enjoyed. And then when I came back, that became kind of a drag, and I got into a lot of drawing and stuff like that. I've always drawn a lot. I really like drawing better than painting because it's more immediate. And then about, let's see, they fired me 2 years ago. About a year before I got fired, I went to a thing about 2 or 3 months of not doing nothing. I was just smoking and drinking. And thinking all this is a crock of shit, this teaching and all that hassle. So then I just didn't do anything. I thought, screw it. I don't think I'm even an artist. Like I'm just, I don't want to have any of that shit, So I just, then I just started drawing again. I just started doodling, and I did. There's one up there, sort of like that. So I did that, and then my friends seemed to like them. And I really enjoyed doing them. I didn't think of them as art, which is a kind of space I'd like to be in all the time. Yeah, then I came out here. I got paid until July, and I came out here and worked and drew and everything. And then I worked for farmers because I didn't have no money. Never saved any money when I went to university. Taught at university. So hauled bales for farmers and stuff like that, and took 1 or 2 welfare checks. And then I bought about 200 sheets of paper, so I'd have enough, and I had a bunch of ink, so I knew I'd have enough to work with all winter. And then this project thing came through, like, the LIP projects, get work for the winter. So some friend, Joe Fafard, said, why don't you apply for that? You could build things, something like your drawing, because I had started. I put up the skeleton that's still here, of a sort of thing that I was going to make just for the kids in town to play with. Sort of like, I'm making a lot of drawings, like big boats, weird boats in the shape of birds or ducks and stuff like that. So I was going to build one anyway. I didn't have the money, and then applied for the project. A month later, it came through, and then we built all those things. And let's see, the summer after that, last summer, I did a little bit of drawing. And then in fall, after seeing Joe and Zakansky and Ann James and all my friends, artists around here, working with ceramic, with clay, I just thought, wow, that's really like drawing. It's so immediate, and it's really nice. So I got some clay and tried it, and then I borrowed a kiln. And I started that last November, and then I just really got into it, and I was doing a piece every day. And then getting into shows with these people. Whenever they have a show, they'd include me, and so I sort of all of a sudden, like, I'd never done ceramics before, which is another nice thing. It's the only medium that's never been sort of screwed over for me by art school. Like, it's just fresh, and I know nothing about it, Like, nothing about glazes or nothing. I'm just discovering it, so it's just, like, really nice not to have art school hang-ups about at least one medium, And it's nice, I don't know, it's just nice to use clay, just take earth and make something, And like, I getting up in the morning when I fire the kiln, especially when I glaze it, put glazed stuff in and wake up. It's like Christmas morning, because you never know for sure what you're going to get. A lot of the time things turn out better than you thought. Some don't, but then you can reglaze them, and then, but it's just like Christmas morning every time. Yeah, and what I feel about ceramics, I could work in it for my lifetime, Yeah, enjoying it is just very important to me. Maybe 2 years from now I'll do a bunch of drawings. Well, I always draw, like I drew yesterday. The funny thing about it, I usually draw when I'm going through changes. And when I've got to get something out of me, whereas with the clay, I think it's a little purer than that. Although I get the same enjoyment. But see, it's a different time. I get to really enjoy doing, and I just use mostly pen and ink, black ink, and an ordinary old fountain pen. And I really enjoy making those lines and letting it grow, and just something to do, like knitting, in a way. And the same thing with clay, And I guess it's a good medium for me. Both those mediums are good because I can let go and enjoy it and let it take me somewhere. Whereas with other mediums, I think I'd get uptight. You know, say if I was using expensive plastic or something, I'd get into that whole bag of industry, and I'm making something that's, you know, of today, the materials of today, and then you'd get into the whole gallery art scene bag of, you know, being hip. That's what I think about art. It's like, it's a nice thing to do. I enjoy it. And it takes me into interesting spaces. It takes my friends or anybody who looks at it, some of them, it takes them into interesting space. But I've really tried to weed out all ideas of like beauty or greatness or this or that. Although sometimes I feel like my work is really great. There's no, you know, and then other times, you know, it could be better. There's pieces that I started on the last fall. Some of them are still nice, but some of them are, you know, I'm just going to throw them out because they embarrass me now, you know. But I don't know, when I was in Europe, I saw so much pompous art, like in the Louvre is full of art that glorified the rich people and whatnot. And there were so many artists that, some of them now are starting to be recognized, artists that just were kind of did, you know, kitchen scenes and stuff. And they were just, you know, modest. And I think that stuff is really good, you know. Like, that's sort of my, what I like, is sort of like nice, honest things. And unpretentious. So I don't think an artist needs expensive materials. You have to adapt yourself, you know. And that's what I like about clay. It's cheap. Even firing the kiln, it only costs about maybe 50 cents, 75 cents for one firing. Sultan is where I live, you know, where my spirit is, you know. So I'm proud to say it. I'm from Saskatchewan. Yeah, for sure. And I like it here because, like, in Europe, I got a feeling that the artists there were so kind of fucked over by tradition, you know. Kind of like, what the hell can I do? You know, everybody's on their knees in front of the, you know, like you go to the Louvre and there's, you know, 200 people standing in a room looking at that ugly Mona Lisa, which is just probably the worst painting he ever painted. He did some nice ones, but, you know, and so, like, here I don't have that, you know. People around here, around town here, just sort of think I'm a kind of weirdo. My farmers drop in, they like my wagon. Sometimes they say, well, you didn't make that quite right. You know, and they don't really think of me as an artist, and I like that. You know, it doesn't make me think I'm an artist and start acting like an artist. You know, there's horses around here, and cows, and people, and nature. You know, water, trees, prairie. Well, yeah, it's really. I think maybe I could work in a big city, although I don't like. You know, like I really like Paris and London for what they have to offer, but it's like you know, nice place to visit, but not a place to live. You know, for me. Where I'm living now is what I really understand, what I grew up with. Well, let's put it this way, like I think that you need a certain amount of security, like a little bit financially and spiritually, sort of. And then from there, it's like a spaceship where you can take off into bigger trips. And I think the more you can kind of feel secure, then you can take off into wilder fantasies, you know. And that's why I really like living here. In the city, there's so much other, like, hassle in your head and coming in stuff that you can't, that I find I have a hard time programming. You know, there's city artists who come out here and they couldn't live the way I live because they think it's a waste of time to go and get a pail of water. And to me, that's a small, I'd much rather walk 10 minutes for a pail of water or chop, in winter I can chop in 10 minutes enough wood to burn in my old stove downstairs to heat my studio. I'd much rather do that than wait for a goddamn bus for 10 minutes, which to me is a total waste of time, and it's just, lots of spontaneous things happen in art, but I think it's very, I think it's very deliberate. You know, like it took me 10 years to get a place to work in, to get myself to go through all kinds of styles and shit, you know, to get myself to the point where, to get that art school thing out of me too. Like I never got into art school that much because I was more mature, so I didn't like worship my teachers that much, which is another drag because like one guy almost failed me, really because of that, you know. But I had a few good guys to work with. But spontaneous. Well, it's like life, you know. I think it's like you have a direction, sort of. You know what you want to do, and then you can use all the accidents and all the things that can happen in your favor. You can even recognize them. If you don't have a direction, then you don't even see those things that are in your favor. You know what I mean? Like, but I like to keep it open. Like I know a certain space almost I think that I'm in when I know that the work should be good. Or if not, I'll get it next time. Like it's kind of a confidence, you know. But most of the time, what I'm after, I guess, in art is like, or let's say what I like happening is something that comes from beyond conscious intellectual thing. But it's like a, you know, you get physically involved with the medium, and then you make a thing that surprises you. You know, surprises you yourself. You learn something about yourself. You learn something about the world. Other than that, like I think like making art, and I've done that kind too. So I know what kind of. It's like planning it and doing this thing, maybe to shock people, maybe to show how good you are technically, which you can get off on. Like when I was doing pop paintings, I think a lot of that trip was like feeling fashionable and being able to paint really slick paintings, you know, really just as good as Rustleman or something like that, you know, which is a nowhere trip really, but you know, you get out of it. I think I'm sort of onto something because I, like, you know, a couple of years ago when I started drawing, there's very few drawings that I've thrown away. Like I usually have a feeling when I want to do it and it turns out good, you know. That's not saying that I wouldn't throw things out if they're no good, but I usually keep things for a long time to make sure, because I think, well, even having a failure around is good because it shows you that you're human, you know, and you kind of don't get so uptight. I think you can just crank out good work one after the other. But there's a funny feeling that comes over you, I think, when you make something that you just know it's going to be good, you know. It's kind of a nice, exciting feeling. Good, I mean, not like, you know, 1,000 years from now somebody's going to, you know, pay $500,000 for it or something, but good that it's going to, that it's reaching somewhere you want to, where you want to be, you know. Well, it's nice when somebody likes your work and for the right reasons, like they like the work and they're not trying to impress you or something or be hip. I really get off on that. And usually it's, sometimes it's critics, people in the art game. But, you know, like I really get off on it, some farmer or somebody comes in and says they like something. Or kids, you know. Because they really look at it without any art glasses, you know, they just look at it with their own eyes. And as far as sort of getting a feeling of if the work is vital or any good, I think I trust that kind of an innocent person's reaction more than you know, a sophisticated art guy. I think Canada's really getting healthy art-wise, not looking to New York anymore, to the international scene. It's sort of a real healthy thing where people are just getting it together and doing what they want to do. And the nice thing is, too, is we're being appreciated. You know, so people aren't buying that much, but we're getting shows and everything, and you know, really being appreciated in the real way that counts. Like I really like the idea of showing in a little place like the Shoestring in Saskatoon with young people who, so many attitudes have changed just in 5 or 6 years. Like 5 or 6 years ago, I wouldn't even want it to show anywhere, even if they would have asked me, which they weren't. But you know, I think things are really getting healthy in Canada. Not feeling uptight about like, is there anything worthwhile saying in this country, or American culture is taking over. There's still here some of that rap, but people are just being more positive, you know, than that. That creates a lot of energy, I think, you know. Like I see Sikansky and Joe once in a while. Sometimes I go for a month without seeing them. We see each other, you know, what are you doing, kind of thing. And that's nice. And yet at the same time, we're not in a kind of school. We're all using clay, but we're all, I think, if you look at the work, it's all quite different. People are trying to label us at schools, and we have fun with that because we just tell them we aren't. We don't want to be identified that way. Just 5 people that happen to live around here. I don't know, I just think it's best to be as positive as you can, you know. You can't even assume that somebody's going to be this way or that way because, like, I think there's lots of energy around, and if you take your piece of that energy and you send it out openly, and then somebody else has to react that way. It's like karma, you know, and it builds onto a good thing all the time. Whereas if you sort of throw a bad thing into it, that's going to hang around until somebody picks it out of there. Things are going on in the prairies. Isn't that funny? Eh? You know, they've always been going on here. Like, pretty tough people came out here. My grandfather walked from Winnipeg to his homestead, about 80 miles east, or 400 miles. Took him 5 days to walk there. He had a little bit of bread when he started out. Not money, but like bread, a little. And then he picked wild berries and whatnot, and finally walked out to his homestead. You know, paid his $20 for a half section. He got this beautiful land along Pheasant Creek, which, like, he was really romantic. He could have got better land, but he got this stony land with trees and the creek and everything, and really got off on that. I always liked my grandfather. He was really a pretty far-out guy. Very unverbal, you know, but a really deep feeling for nature. Like he used to tell, he told me once, he said, if you ever, when you're growing up, sometimes you'll probably be unhappy or nervous. It's hard to say it because he told me in Ukrainian, it's hard to translate it. Then just take your blanket and lie down on the earth at night. In summer, like it's summer, if it's warm, covering yourself up, and the earth will fix you up. And that's strange because that's actually true. Like, you know, having your body next to the earth, they find out now it's good for, you know, like it grounds you out or something. That's really, you know. But that was just such a, you know, beautiful way to, kind of a trust in good old Mother Earth.